And a very warm welcome. You're joining us here at Hyde Park on Other Derana 24. And tonight on this episode of Hyde Park, we will be talking about plastic waste, the emerging challenges and the regulatory framework that's needed to combat the challenges, not just on the environment, but health, everyday lifestyle of individuals, not just here in Sri Lanka, but South Asia as a whole, how the region can come together to combat the challenges of plastic waste crisis that is a major threat to our part of the world. In South Asia, we found that some 334 million tons of waste is generated annually, and of this about 26 million tons is just plastic waste. In Sri Lanka alone, 1,500 metric tons of plastic garbage is sent into coastal seas annually, and this is becoming a major threat to not just the humans, but our ocean life as well. Let's talk about how South Asia as a region and Sri Lanka especially is going to work on combating the challenges on the environment and the nature itself. We've invited to our studios a panel of experts who will be talking about plastic waste. Let me first introduce Salman Tariq, who is the CEO and co-founder of Devam Life Pakistan, whose expertise is in energy and environment. And I'd also like to warmly welcome Irushini Vedage, a conservation scientist and program director for Island Climate Initiative. We also have with us from the Maldives Community Empowerment Linkage's founder, Ahmed Hassan, whose expertise is climate action, environment, and plastic waste recycling. Thank you very much for your time here at Hyde Park. I'd like to start off with this. I know you're in Sri Lanka for a very specific project, plastic-free rivers and seas. But what's this vision all about? Why is this a big issue to bring all of us together?
I think for all of us from different countries, especially the South Asian countries, we're all facing the same problems everywhere. I think one thing that in recent history, COVID taught us that when there's a problem in one part of the world, it's not just stays there, it goes around. And similarly, the plastic waste problem is that. And because we have a shared problem, I know we focus on the negatives more. But we're all here gathered to talk about some of the solutions as well. As a human race, we always talk about problems here and problems there, but we need to focus on solutions as well as we need to go forward. Plastic waste, like all the waste, is problematic because we live amongst the waste. It's becoming part of our food chains. It impacts our health as well. And we as a human race are obsessed with plastic waste because most of our consumption items ordinary that we consume comes in single-use packaging as well. So if we don't amend our ways, while the problem is huge right now, it's growing every day. So we have to come together and kind of talk about solutions, and I think there are some positive developments, especially the South Asian countries. We're similar in cultures as well. We share a lot of things, and the solutions that we come up in one part of the region can be applied to other places as well.
How is Pakistan managing this situation? What kind of a generation of plastic waste do you observe there in Pakistan, and what measures? Is this the government coming to work around this, or do you have non-governmental organizations?
Right, so Pakistan as well, like the rest of South Asia, we have 3.9 million tons of plastic waste. So just to give you a stat, it's like 2 K2s, the height of 2 K2s is what we produce annually. For us, we're also, we have a very broken system as far as waste management is concerned. So right now, while the government is making moves in creating policies like the rest of the world, the private sector who I belong to, I have a startup as well. I think the young population are really the hope everywhere because we're coming up with solutions. And my company as well, what we've come come up with a solution is we've made refill stations. While there are other companies that are collecting waste and sorting and recycling waste, we're focusing on avoiding waste. Like, we still have to buy shampoo and hand wash and dishwashing liquid, right? So what do we do as consumers? We don't have any other option than to buy, use, and throw it away. So what we have come up with a solution is make a refill station for a shampoo. So next time when you want a shampoo, don't throw away your bottle, come back and refill it. Or it could be cooking oil, or it could be dishwashing liquid.
How's that picking up in?
So we have, through this project, the reason why we're here is the World Bank and UNOPS provided us with an innovation grant. And through the project, we've just implemented these machines, and we're seeing a very positive response. The reason is because if you provide incentives to consumers like discounts, because if you come in and refill a bottle, it's going to cost less than if you were to buy a new bottle as well. So we have to incentivize consumer behavior change, and we're seeing a very positive response. And this is the kind of solution that somebody in Sri Lanka can adopt and say that if this is working in Pakistan, we also, consumers over here are also price conscious, and this might work over here as well.
Right. I'd like to turn to Irushini here as well. Sri Lanka, we seem to be importing plastic waste for recycling, adding to the burden of domestic accumulation of plastics as well. But how do you really observe this situation? Our recycling process, do we have enough support from government, or is the private sector gearing up to work to eliminate this issue?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things there. I think first off, we are importing a lot of virgin plastics here to do FMCG packaging. So if you look at our day-to-day packaging, like Salman said, everything comes packaged. And the biggest issue is we can't recycle those. I mean, we don't recycle those in terms of, I mean, if we try to recycle, that is actually going to downcycle, meaning if you recycle a package, like say a bottle, you can't make another bottle out of it in Sri Lanka. So what happens is it becomes a flower pot or a t-shirt, and that goes to a landfill ultimately. So I think that is somewhere you can address this problem, where if you can actually upcycle or get into the real circular economy of making proper recyclate, where you can incorporate the recyclate back into packaging, then a lot of problems can be solved in terms of waste, because it reduces the waste and also reduces the imports that we need to do the packaging in Sri Lanka. So that is one thing. And I don't think we have to bring in waste to Sri Lanka to, I mean, waste in the sense like, say, recycled material or post-consumer material to Sri Lanka, because we have enough post-consumer material in Sri Lanka. So if we can just properly recycle them so that we can use them in this packaging, I think that is something that we can do to make a positive impact on this.
Single-use plastics, I think, is there a regulation here? What's the situation? How are we working on this?
So we have certain regulations. I think recently also we imposed like certain types of recycled single-use plastics we can't use in Sri Lanka. It was banned. And I think we tried to ban single-use plastic several years ago as well, but it didn't work. The biggest problem is, I mean, we have an economy woven around these single-use plastics, the convenience about it. The plastic is a very versatile material. And if you are to get rid of that, then you have to show everyone an alternative. And this alternative should be scalable and viable. So the problem with a lot of alternatives today is that they are not as viable, economically viable or scalable in this economy.
What are these alternatives?
So several things, like it could be a paper bag or a glass bottle, or it could be like something really innovative like a packaging made out of seaweed or mushrooms. So it depends on how scalable and how affordable these materials are for the companies. Because a business, when they're running, they're focusing on their margins. And if they have to kind of spend a lot of money on just packaging, then it's not going to make economic sense to them, business sense to them. So if we are coming up with alternatives, then we have to make sure they can be replaced. The plastic can be replaced by them, because plastic is quite cheap. That's one of the biggest issues that we have, actually.
I'd like to turn to Ahmed Hassan in Maldives. How do you all really manage this major tourism destination? And I'm sure the situation is quite different, but is also challenging the same way our part of the region, every other country faces.
Yes, thank you very much. As you said, Maldives is a destination country, and we are selling like beaches and ocean, I mean the lagoon area. So we are very much under risk that whatever the things which ends up on the ocean, which comes actually to the shoreline. So we need to take several measures on this thing, and our government recently they have taken several measures that for the SUPs. So as Sri Lankan government has taken several measures, the same sort of items have been banned now in Maldives as well. So this is the situation, but the main problem what we face is that the behavior changes that people has to get these things, the awareness and all other things. These are the areas that we are still missing. So, and also for these plastics, what we are going to do for this for the next step. So that is also. We don't have the technologies and these things in, unlike other countries. In Maldives we don't have, so we have to end up these things to refill, either for the refill in land, or we have to end up or burn, something like that we have to do.
How do you manage this, especially single-use plastics, and is there some sort of regulation on the use of polythene in the Maldives, and what are you promoting there?
Now, actually, as I mentioned, that 12 items has been banned already from 2022 onwards. It's been banned, including this plastic straw and a polythene bag as well. So now, no retailers can sell plastic bags as well as these straws. Especially, these things are mostly available in restaurants area. So nowadays, you don't see these things. So instead of this, they can get it the paper straws and paper bags, and reusable cloth bags, and these things are nowadays using. So those are the alternatives that we are using now.
And is the private sector, are the people adopting easily? What are the challenges?
Yeah, as a local island, because I'm working in a local island, so I can only feel that how our people are engaging with these things. So when I started these things, so most of the people, they actually didn't aware of this thing, or what will be the impact that it will come after like 10 years back. So we started with engage in several awareness activities, and now we have started eliminating the plastic drinkable water bottles from whole island. Actually, we have installed several purification machines all around the island, including households, including all the restaurants, and also we are mostly aligned with this fishing industry. So we have a lot of fishing vessels. So we have installed these purify machines even in fishing vessels, so that most of these fishermen, they used to carry these 500 ml water bottles when they go for fishing, and once they use this, they just throw it to the ocean. So all those activities been now totally stopped, because we have once we install these machines, and also we have introduced one reusable bucket, which will be which the fishermen will use to carry their raw fish to home actually,
Right.
instead of using this polythene bags. So for that daily activity also has been banned. So we are on a goal of that eliminating these polythene bags and the plastic bottles now.
Salman, I think we spoke about South Asia earlier, but it's alarming that the amount of waste that is collecting now will double by 2050, a massive escalation of waste. We don't realize that we use plastics at home. Whatever we use is accumulating into such large numbers. Can we just talk about what really the impact is? I think the awareness on the impact on health, wildlife, ocean life, the people, the environment is yet not known as much as the repercussions are making such challenges to us.
No, absolutely, and that's why I always give this example of COVID, because we as a human race have faced a catastrophe together just a few years back. The problem of environment might be more than COVID, but the response is not as emergency response like we had with COVID. And the problem is it's very invisible. People are not aware about the health impacts. People living in cities really don't know what's happening in the marine life or in the beaches and oceans, right? So we have to come up with ways and solutions how we can make all of this very real. And part of this is why we're having this conversation right now. You have a very great responsibility as well, because you're out there in the communications field. And more than that, we, the innovators, have a far greater responsibility in coming up with solutions. Just saying that this should be banned or that should be banned, it's sometimes not the solution. As my colleague here was talking about how there was a ban, but it didn't work out. Similarly, in Pakistan as well, there was a plastic ban as well. Unless you don't give people the alternate, the bans won't work. We have to live our life, right? We're not going to stop using plastic and then stop using, as I said, cooking oil or a shampoo or a hand wash because we want to save the earth. The unfortunate thing is nobody will pay a premium to save the environment, is what I keep saying, right? We can talk about being very good internally, but it's not going to happen. Right?
Nobody's interest, really, yeah.
People are barely surviving as it is. They're like, we have 15,000 other problems. Now you're talking about to save the environment, and plastic is not really impacting me. So the challenge is, with the innovators, the policymakers, the communicators, how do we come together and incentivize people towards a certain things? We all started wearing masks, right? We never did wear masks. Again, I go back to COVID. We brought in sticks, we brought in a carrot policy, we did awareness, and then suddenly everybody was starting to wear masks. Everybody orders food online rather than cooking at home more than 5 years ago, right? What happens when you order food at home? It comes with a bag and then you discard it. So it's because we're creating conveniences for the human race. We also have to come up with alternates. We can't tell people to stop eating food or stop doing their groceries, which is why the alternate that my company has created, though it's a very start, is at least we're trying. We're trying to give people the option to refill and reuse, and we're telling them, look, you can save 30% more, which for a family right now in Pakistan or Sri Lanka might be good enough for them to change their behavior and say, look, 30% over time, over 5 or 10 products is a lot of saving for me to change my behavior. But if you're going to tell people, look, now you need to buy this bag, which is now costing 20% more because we need to save the environment, not a lot of people will do it. So we have to come up with smart solutions, and this growth of waste that you've talked about, today we have a mess. In 10 years, we're going to have a bigger mess. What are we going to do then? So we have to start with smart, innovative solutions together right now.
Irushini was talking about how in Sri Lanka, the costing, the alternatives are expensive. You mentioned here how innovators can come up with new solutions. How do you think we can look at the crisis here in Sri Lanka? There was a time when Sri Lanka attempted to ban what we call lunch sheets from entering the city of Colombo along with your lunch packet that you bring from home. But if the alternatives are not cheap, how can we look at this? What can innovators do, especially for an island nation as Sri Lanka?
And this is where the government comes in. When there is a price disparity on a product that we want people to have and a product right now, this is where tax incentives can come in. So I'll give you an example. What's my wish list? My wish list is there is a general sales tax on buying a product. I'm pretty sure there is here in Sri Lanka as well. If the government says, look, this is a smart thing, we want everybody to adopt this. So everybody who refills a product will now pay 10% tax rather than 18% tax. Automatically, the existing product becomes more expensive, and the alternate, which was supposed to be expensive, now becomes more cheaper. Tomorrow, if you say that food delivery services that give in biodegradable packaging will get an incentive or less tax, suddenly all the restaurants will start not using the styrofoam or single-use packaging. They'll start going towards. And once you start creating this economy, there is a business concept called economies of scale. When you start doing something more, the cost of production automatically comes down. This is where initially the government needs to come in and then incentivize. Right now, the innovators like us are doing everything on our own. We're trying to create innovative solutions without any incentives or cost push. And this is where the policy people can come in and clear this disparity.
Irushini, well, you're also an innovator, a scientist, a conservation scientist. We're talking about marine life, the ocean. Sri Lanka, a major, we rely heavily on fishing in our northeast areas. We depend on fishing as a livelihood. But with all this, there's also talk about abandoning ghost fishing gear. What is the solution here in Sri Lanka? I know we spoke about the Maldives, how the Maldives is managing this situation.
Well, I mean, it definitely is a problem. One of the biggest issues about this abandoned gear is, one, there is no data around it. Now, if you want to solve something, I mean, you can look at like one coastline and then just find abandoned fishing gear, and then maybe you send it to the waste to energy plant and just, you know, solve that problem. But if you want to solve it at scale, then you need to know certain things, like where exactly are they coming, where they're going, and you need that kind of data. One of the biggest problems we have is we don't have that kind of data about ghost fishing gear, because well, when they're at sea, like, no one is going to track them. So what happens is fishermen, when they don't need any gear, like say it's worn out or anything, they just abandon it at sea, because it's a cost for them to take it back, right? Because they can take more fish rather than bringing that gear back. So they just abandon it, and we actually don't know where they're coming, or whether a Sri Lankan fisherman discarded it or an Indian fisherman discarded it. So one of the biggest problems, as I said, is the data. And also, we tried to actually, I mean, with my previous employer, we tried to create a solution for abandoned gear by making, like, you know, converting or transforming this gear into usable products, like say tiles or eyewear, things like that. But the problem there was, again, we did not have a constant supply of raw material to do that. So that's the other problem, because it's not easy to collect this fishing gear when they're at sea. And for a business to run, there should be a constant supply. I mean, I'm not saying it's good to have a constant supply because it's a pollutant, but if you are coming up with an innovative business solution, then input also matters. So there are problems like this. But definitely, I think as a region, if we can work together on especially like gathering data and maybe creating bans or regulations around this, I think that would work. Because when a piece of plastic goes into the sea, it's everyone's business, right? But the problem is no one is looking at it because it's out of sight. But I think if we can regionally come up with some sort of a, like a regulation or like a treaty or something like that for abandoned fishing gear, that would be something that would be really helpful.
Sure. I think it's time we take a short break here at Hyde Park. We're discussing plastic waste in South Asia and how Sri Lanka is responding to our own crisis of plastics. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back. We're discussing plastic waste, the challenges and solutions to combating this environmental challenge. I'd like to turn to the panel to maybe discuss this time plastic recycling and how we can make sense of the available solutions, alternatives, and really take proactive measures to bring better health and to clean up the environment. I'd like to start off with Ahmed here.
I can give an example from my island. Actually, we had a lot of health issues. Even we didn't have a proper waste management center. We didn't have a proper cleaning, and we didn't have even a segregation process. So those days, the people they used to dump behind their house actually.
Yeah.
So these garbages, due to these burnings and uncleanness, a lot of health issues has arrived those days. So now we are way forward, and we are approaching to and we are promoting a slogan that every people from the island, they should know that we are promoting that a no plastic island, heavenly Mulang. Mulang is actually my island, which is located in central atoll in Maldives. So now, as I mentioned before, we are going forward for eliminating the plastics as well as the polythene bags by practicing, by installing all these purification machines, and as well as by practicing the reusable shopping bags for the shopping purpose and all these things. So we see that a lot of good behavior change, and we see that impact is very high, and unlike those days, it's now very clean, and we have proper segregation, and we have proper waste management system. So there is no more dumping now to the land side of the island, even for the ocean as well. So but we need a lot more things to do to keep our community healthier and safer.
Can we maybe also look at how other countries, we're talking about South Asia as a region, but there must be countries that manage this issue effectively. Plastic is not just singular to our region. So how, Salman, if you can maybe draw some maybe examples from other countries that are working around this issue better than we are?
I think obviously we look towards more about countries in the West, for example. Europe, for example, is the leader in sustainability as well. They're also driving a lot of these regulatory changes. There was a lot of talk about these days called extended producer responsibility. It's called EPR. Extended producer responsibility really means that if there is a company that makes a beverage and sells a beverage, their responsibility does not end when the consumer consumes it and throws it away. So you extend their responsibility and say that this end of consumption cycle is now your responsibility and you will be penalized. And that is where some of these large multinational companies, for example, now are being forced into being part of the solutions and are either being penalized, or you provide what's called plastic credits. Again, this is all very new. The standardization is what we're talking about these days, but we see a system. We go outside and go to the West, for example, there are clean roads and there is a working mechanism, right, somewhere along the way. It's true that they still have their landfills and they have all of this plastic going in the landfill, and when you have the plastic in the landfills or in other places, it seeps into our environment. So the problem in the South Asian countries, and especially Pakistan, is always the collection, and it's such a huge undertaking that sometimes governments don't have the capacity to really provide that collection services, and then there is lack of economic incentives as well for anyone to really collect them and do something about it. That's why some of the private people have made an economic model out of this, of kind of collecting the plastic waste and selling it to recyclers. It's happening informally in Pakistan as well, I'm sure, and pretty much in the other South Asian countries, because plastic, for example, PET, the kind of bottle we have in our beverage or water, that's called PET, that's recycled. If it's recycled, there is somebody out there is willing to pay a price for that bottle being collected. And once you have an economic model, automatically it creates incentives for people to pick. Unfortunately, there are child labor, for example, in Pakistan, in informal sectors as well, trying to pick up and make a living by doing that as well. And the conversations around it is how do we formalize this entire process as well. So the government and again in the private sector needs to come together and see what's being done in the West as well. India, I've learned today, has a lot of good EPR policies. We can look towards those policies over there as well. But these conversations are all very new, and the biggest problem right now is that we need to have standards. Every year we have these new policies and new standards coming up. The business community and people also want to see some sort of stability in these policies, and we need to come together and kind of standardize them.
I don't know whether this is more than 72%, but they say South Asia's plastic waste is mismanaged, and
Exactly.
it could be even close to 90%. But these, as he originally said, we don't have much data. We don't know where this is coming from or where it is going. But if we turn to Sri Lanka, Irushini, government, we understand Salman and Ahmed is talking about how governments can work together and how the Maldives has really, even a small island, to look at exemplary ways of effectively managing plastics. But here in Sri Lanka, we brought in, there was a cabinet decision taken, we had a conversation around it, but we still do see even the collection at city level. How do you think, as non-governmental organizations and the private sector can press the government to bring in simple measures that will have a larger impact on the society?
Oh, that's a very important question you asked, Indeewari, because I think not only in Sri Lanka, in any country, just the government can't do, can't find a solution to this problem of plastics. It should be everyone. So it's the government, the private sector, and everyone has their roles. Like the private sector, if they're doing innovations, government can impose regulations. So everyone has their own role to play. So I think looking at Sri Lanka, and we have a national plastic waste management policy for Sri Lanka. But it says, like, for example, I'm giving you, you have to incorporate about 30% of plastics in plastic packaging by 2030. Now, the gap is, there is a plan like that, but there's no infrastructure or the other systems developed in order to provide that recycled plastic that is needed to go into packaging. Now, if you look at FMCG packaging, there's so many tons and tons of plastics that is kind of used in packaging, but 30% of that is a huge amount. So can our recyclers in Sri Lanka, are they geared to kind of provide that, to supply to that demand? So that is what we are trying to do with, at Island Climate Initiative as well. So what we are trying to do is, like Salman said, standards are very important. So we have developed a standard called GP certified, where we are trying to certify recycled plastics. Now this is where the private sector innovation part comes in. And there are FMCG companies who are very willing to incorporate recycled plastic into the packaging, but they need assurance as to this recycled plastic, because this is post-consumer, so they're contaminated. So they want to make sure that this plastic that they're incorporating into their packaging is safe to use and ethically produced. So we are, with GP certified, the green label that we are we have launched, what we are doing is we are standardizing that process, and we are giving these companies that assurance that these recycled plastics are safe to use and they're ethically produced. So we are also working with recyclers and material recovery facilities to kind of enhance their ability to produce good quality plastics. We have given them a set of standard operating procedures and also ESG guidelines so that they can adopt them and they can produce good quality plastics so that they can supply to this demand. And also on the consumer side, because you need the consumer demand, the consumer buy-in to kind of sell something, right? So we have developed a green label that could go on the packaging so that the consumer is also aware that, you know, this has recycled plastics. So this is, by buying this product, we are helping the environment, we are helping, we are encouraging the standards of the industry, and also we are helping the the economy of Sri Lanka, because by using recycled plastics, right, we can actually kind of cut down on our imports of virgin plastics. So, I mean, these are the kind of innovations that a government or, you know, I mean, in this process, we are also like recommending, like we are developing policy recommendations for the government, the policy makers to consider. Because, I mean, like everyone here said, like everyone has to come together.
Sure.
Like, you know.
Ahmed, I think you might have something to add also. This is our last round for your closing remarks as well, but more from the angle of why it's important for us in South Asia to come together rather than our individual countries fight.
What I think is that is we are very much concerned about the marine life of the plastics that are ending into the oceans, that we have experienced that a lot of, as from Sri Lankan side, those nets and these things, we have experienced that the turtles and other fishes, we have seen several videos like these things, and also we have found that some of the tunas belly, we have found the plastics already we have found. So this is quite alarming. So I think we all work together to eliminate these things, and we need to do much more work on this thing.
Salman?
I think, again, we have to focus on the positives. The problem is so huge that we can just take a deep dive into the problems and think about negative thoughts, but we have to think about solutions now, and we have to think positive. I do believe that there is enough collective brain power amongst all of us to think about solutions. It's a man-made problem, right, all of this, so there are solutions out there, but it has to be, the challenging thing is, it's a multi-sectoral thing. It's easier for us sometimes as consumers to say the government is the problem and the government is not doing this. It starts with us. As I keep saying, the waste management process doesn't start when you discard something in the dustbin. It starts when we walk into a retail outlet and decide to buy a product. If we're not going to buy a product, it's not going to be produced, and then if you're not going to consume, it's not going to be there as well. So we need to keep thinking, us as consumers as well, how do we become part of the solution, and how do we not keep talking about the problems anymore? So I do believe that we can create these solutions, but the challenge again is we don't have 5 years or 10 years, we have to do this right now.
Irushini?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both these gentlemen. I mean, it's a mix of things that we have to do in order to come out of this mess, I would say. Plastic is a problem, but we have to also understand that we won't be able to get rid of plastics in the next decade or so. So the solution would be like a mix of things. We have to recycle plastics. I mean, I know it's not the ultimate solution, but until we find a replacement, we have to use plastics. So we have to keep on recycling whatever we have and also look at alternatives, look at innovations, and we have to bring all sectors together to fight this battle, like the private sector, the government, the individual consumers, and there will be the changes to their behaviors and the economies. So I think everyone has to work with an open mind and collaboratively to kind of solve this problem.
Thank you very much, Salman Tariq. We were in discussion with a specialist in energy and environment, CEO and co-founder of Dawam Life Pakistan. Thank you once again for your expertise. We were also in discussion with Irushini Vedage, who is a conservation scientist, program director for Island Climate Initiative here in Sri Lanka. Thank you once again for your time here. We were also in discussion with Ahmed Hassan, a specialist in climate action and environment protection, founder of Community Empowerment Linkage in the Maldives. Thank you for your time here. We've been discussing plastic waste and how our region, South Asia, can work together to combat the challenges on biodiversity, marine life, the oceans, the health of humankind, and how governments, policymakers, the private sector, and individuals can come together to support these efforts, to make an effort that brings about sustainable solutions to the problems we face across the globe. Plastics, the new battle that humankind will fight. Again, we urge all our viewers to come together to work at home, individually, at your workplace, and at your communities to ensure that we minimize the use of plastics and responsibly dispose and recycle plastics. We'll be right back with yet another discussion here at Hyde Park on Derana 24 on another afternoon. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.